By the way, the bombshells are now falling more. Not real bombs, but explosive revelations from the man who leaked the story about the government's electronic spying program.
And Congress is calling witnesses from the National Security Agency to explain why such a program is necessary. Ephraim Graham has the story.
Another round of classified briefings on Capitol Hill today as America's cyber spying scandal continues. Today's hearings come in the wake of more leaked information. Edward Snowden told a Hong Kong newspaper U.S. computer hackers targeted China, North Korea, and even Hong Kong.
For a lot of Hong Kong people, it's quite scary.
In congressional hearings Wednesday, the head of the NSA said the surveillance programs Snowden revealed are legal and have helped to prevent dozens of terrorist attacks.
We aren't trying to hide it. If we tell the terrorists every way that we're going to track them, they will get through and Americans will die. That's wrong.
But questions about how Snowden was able to obtain so much classified information remain.
We do have to go back and look at these processes, the oversight in those. We have those, where they went wrong, and how we fix those.
Meanwhile, lawmakers are concerned about the law that allows the secret surveillance program that Snowden exposed. The Patriot Act expanded law enforcement power to gather information with fewer restrictions to fight terror. Representative Jim Sensenbrenner introduced the Patriot Act back in 2001. He says the administration and the Secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court have gone far beyond what the act intended. But the NSA continues to defend its methods of protecting the U.S.
I think what we're doing to protect American citizens here is the right thing.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Thanks, Ephraim. Revelations have come out, by the way, about emails and letters that were telephone conversations between servicemen in Iraq and their families back home, their girlfriends, sweethearts, and so forth. And some of the more intimate details have been shared around, like you hear what this guy says, and here's what his wife says, and isn't this interesting? Those things were never supposed to be disclosed or even listened to, but they are. And more and more things are coming out that the public doesn't quite like. Well, what does the public think about the government surveillance program? And Wendy Griffith is here with us to tell us that story.
That's right, Pat. An early poll found that most Americans seem to support the government surveillance program, but two new polls show most people don't like it. A CBS News poll finds that 58% disapprove of the federal government collecting the phone records of ordinary Americans. Only 38% approve. And a Gallup poll reports that 53% don't approve of the program, while 37% do. Well, a massive storm system left a path of destruction across the Midwest last night before heading toward the Mid-Atlantic region. It's a giant line of ferocious storms already blamed for triggering 17 tornadoes. In Iowa, businesses and homes were among the worst casualties of a series of tornadoes. This restaurant was destroyed. High winds caused by possible twisters knocked out power to some areas of Ohio. And in Chicago, the White Sox baseball game was postponed due to severe weather. Nearby, Indiana was hit with golf ball-sized hail, which damaged cars. Forecasters upgraded the risk of storms to its highest level for parts of the Midwest overnight, the first time this year.
High risk is just off the charts. That's when we're really sounding the bell as loudly as we can to let folks know that, hey, you really need to pay attention.
More damage and possible flooding is expected today in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Well, after nearly 2 weeks of protests, Turkey's government cracked down on demonstrators. They're angry about Islamist restrictions imposed by their leaders. It's the biggest challenge so far to Prime Minister Erdogan's 10-year rule. John Wagi has more.
In Istanbul, an angry quiet has settled in Taksim Square, the place that honors Ataturk, the father of secular Turkey, and the site where protesters were attacked by police with water cannons Tuesday night. Several are dead and thousands have been wounded in demonstrations that started in Istanbul late last month and spread to Ankara, the capital, and more than 75 other cities. It began with a protest over the development of a park, but it has become a secular demonstration of anger against the restrictions of the ruling Islamist party, headed by Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Turkey is a NATO ally, and Erdogan has a close relationship with President Obama. At a rally on John F. Kennedy Street in Ankara near the U.S. Embassy, this man shouts, "Tayyip Erdogan is a walking dictatorship. This is a dictatorship. We are against dictatorship." Protesters say the demonstrations are partly a spontaneous groundswell.
They are not from any movement, but they just feel solidarity with the people who are participating in the protests.
Despite the anger in the streets, the government remains defiant, saying it will listen to complaints, but knowing that it retains popular support among Turkey's millions of Islamist sympathizers. On Monday, the president signed a law restricting alcohol sales and banning its advertising. And the government unveiled its hardball tactics against the protesters a day later. The newspaper headline in the Turkish kiosks reads, "Shame." As a Sunni Muslim, Erdogan has been among the most vocal leaders in opposing Iranian nuclear weapons. He has also backed the opposition to Syria's President Bashar Assad. And Turkey houses dozens of U.S. tactical nuclear weapons and thousands of American military people on its soil. All good reasons for keeping an eye on what happens next in the former capital of the Ottoman Empire. John Waggy, CBN News.
Thanks, John. The Southern Baptist Convention opposes the Boy Scouts' new policy allowing gay scouts. They passed a resolution at their annual meeting in Houston. The resolution does not recommend that Southern Baptists drop their ties with the Scouts, but it does support churches and families who do. The convention also re-elected its first black president, the Reverend Fred Luter Jr. Luter was unopposed and got a standing ovation. A warning for people who try to drive and use those hands-free devices to talk on the phone, send text messages, and control the radio. A new AAA study finds that those devices are extremely distracting, actually worse than holding your phone while driving. A new study finds that just because your hands are free doesn't mean your brain is free. Turns out all those voice-activated gadgets in cars are not making driving any safer. The AAA research finds drivers who use hands-free cell phones are at least 2 times more distracted than those who don't. And the speech-to-text function in car systems that lets you keep your hands on the wheel is even worse. The drivers are 3 times more distracted.
Your brain is so overloaded with these, speech-to-text tasks or talking on a cell phone that you have very little residual capacity to attend to the roadway.
Car companies have been marketing hands-free systems to new car buyers for years. Younger drivers are especially attracted to the fact that they can control their music, answer emails, even check their Facebook page using their voice. But AAA is concerned about the safety and wants some restrictions.
This speech-to-text technology should only be able to be used or limited to use for drivers when the vehicle is stopped.
AAA is urging the car and electronics industries to come up with technology that limits use of voice-activated devices to basic driving-related activities, such as the windshield wipers or climate control. Well, it sure would be nice if people only use those devices for emergency phone calls. But, Pat, I have no idea how they would actually enforce that. People love those hands-free devices.
Oh, they do. I mean, that's your traveling office, Wendy, and you're up there. I mean, I've been taking calls from overseas and, doing business negotiations and things. While driving. I mean, and of course, you lose track of what you're doing. You're hurtling along in a 4,000-pound vehicle at 65, 70, 75 miles an hour. I mean, it's a missile of great magnitude. Terry's here, and Terry, you're going to the Ukraine.
I am going to Ukraine.
Why do you go to the Ukraine?
Well, first of all, I love Ukraine, but second, we're doing so much work
there. You're not Ukrainian, huh?
Well, in my heart a little bit, but we have a lot of Orphans Promise
background. Why don't you go
there.
to visit the fjords or something?
I'd like to go visit the fjords, but right now I'm going to Ukraine. We're going to bring back stories on our work with the gypsy communities there. We've got a new training center opening in Vinica, so lots of wonderful projects.
You are dealing with gypsy orphans?
Well, we're dealing with vulnerable kids in the gypsy communities. A lot of them, their parents are illiterate, so the children are illiterate. We've got a school going. We've built bathhouse in one place where the kids could only bathe in the summertime.
Oh, my.
So we're making education possible, and now a lot of the parents are coming and saying, will you teach us to read and write too? And also our seed project is teaching them how to feed themselves.
there's no opposition. When you get there, they receive you with joy and happiness.
Yes, you gain trust as you come in. You know that nobody anywhere in the world wants to feel like you've come to take pictures and just talk about their poverty. They want to know, are you going to stay? Do you really care about us? Are you going to make a difference? And so now we have that relationship in about 8 different gypsy camps. Might even be up to 12 by now, but we're continuing to work there. And these are forgotten people and people kind of rejected societally. And so a great opportunity.
CBN, as you know, has a huge studio in Kiev. We produce a lot of programs in Russian, and that we moved out of, we had a little studio in Moscow, but the big operation is now in the Ukraine.
In Kiev,
in
right.
Kiev. It's huge, big.
And a lot of our people from there will be going with us, and they've been ministering to the gypsy community, so we're excited about going. There's always a lot going on in Ukraine.
Please stay safe and give us some good pictures.
We'll bring you some good stories back.
Authorities shut down 4 Maryland abortion clinics and suspended the licenses of 3 doctors last month. Regulators cited the death of a patient at one clinic and lax procedures at all 4 facilities. A woman died after experiencing cardiopulmonary arrest following an abortion at a Baltimore clinic. An investigation found that neither the doctor nor the assistant had been trained to use the defibrillator. The doctor attempted CPR on the patient, but she later died at a hospital. It was later discovered that the defibrillator didn't even work. The United Nations says nearly 93,000 people have now been killed by civil war in Syria, and that's just the confirmed death toll. The UN says the real number is likely much higher. That official toll spans from March of 2011 through April of this year. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.